Got another anime waifu game for you because I'm totally not a weeb. This one is called, let me see if I can remember the entire title. Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth Record of Lodo Story? Look, for brevity, I'm just going to call it Wonder Labyrinth at all during this video from here on out. So, make things easy on us. Anyway, Wonder Labyrinth, here we go. Alrighty then, so this game is brought to us by Team Ladybug, who gave us the fantastic Touhou Luna Nights, a game I really should have done a video on, but unfortunately it never ended up happening. I did do a full playthrough of it, which I will link in the description below though. That said, while this video will be mainly about Wonder Labyrinth, I will be sprinkling in comparisons to Touhou Luna Nights. Also, as of the writing of this video, Wonder Labyrinth is in early access, and currently there are only 2 stages available to play through. Took me about an hour or so to get through, and I will say right now $12 for 2 areas of Metroidvania map with more to come in the future patch was well worth the money. Like my last video, I'll be combining these 2 subjects, this time because it is a very short list of things to talk about. You take on the role of Deedlit, an amnesiac elf warrior lady. She knows who she is and some of the people you encounter, but has no idea where she is or how she got there. The story, as it stands right now, revolves around exploring this mysterious location and figuring out what is going on. Along the way, you run into what I'm assuming are false representations of past people Deedlit has encountered before. Every time you find someone, the screen flickers green and does like an Undertale thing where people randomly pop in and out. This happens with both allies and enemies, and even the bosses Deedlit seems to know. Unfortunately, the game hasn't progressed enough to answer any of these questions, so I'm left with my personal theory that Deedlit is in the Matrix, kinda sorta, much like the main character from Touhou Luna Nights was. It works perfect for a video game to explain where your character with these supposed years of experience fighting evil are so suddenly depowered, when they have this rich history that I am assuming is explored in comics or something, maybe? Because it isn't explored here. The problems I have with the game all come back to, it just isn't as good as Touhou Luna Nights. TLN had time manipulation as the central mechanic of the game. You could stop or slow down time to allow any of your numerous knives to do all sorts of tricks to deal massive damage to enemies and clear obstacles. What Wonder Labyrinth opts for instead are these 2 spirits. One lets you fly and one lets you do more damage and avoid certain types of damage. This is a massive downgrade from the absolute absurdity of time manipulation. I can understand not wanting to rehash the old game, especially in another project that has no plotline relation to Touhou, but at least give me something more interesting than an infinite hover and increased damage. On a purely aesthetic note, the game looks and sounds great. And I know I've harped on the 2-spirit system, but this is where I want to clarify it isn't bad by any means, it's just inferior to its predecessor. When you get into the swing of the game, you'll be swapping back and forth quickly between the 2 spirits in fluid movement and combat. The spirit system also incentivizes aggression, as the only way to regain health, aside from save points, is to attack enemies and build up a meter. Once said meter is full, you get auto regen on your HP. This is a good carryover mechanic from Touhou, which did something similar. The bosses were also fantastic to fight. They were well crafted, forcing you to make sure you know how to use the spirit gimmick. This is another wondrous carryover from Touhou. Team Ladybug really do well with their boss fights and integrating mechanical adeptness at their game. These fights aren't the hardest thing you've ever faced by any stretch of the imagination, but they do require knowing when to swap between the spirits. Again, not as deep as the time manipulation, but still well executed. So, Wonder Labyrinth, it's... as I've said several times in the video, it really is not as good as Touhou Luna Nights, but it's still pretty good. If I were to put scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the best, if I were to put Touhou Luna Nights at a 10, Wonder Labyrinth would be at a 7. It's still really, really good. It's just not nearly as good as its predecessor, because the time manipulation mechanic was significantly more fun to play around with than swapping between infinite hover and increased damage and ability to not take certain types of damage. All that being said, this is an early access game. I do still highly recommend it. They are only at Stage 2 right now. Stage 3 and 4 are coming out in early 2021, I believe they said. And you're only paying about $10 for the game, so $10 for 2 zones, I guess you would say, of a Metroidvania, with more to come that are still very fun. Yeah, still better than a lot of the AAA content that's out right now. But I could harp on that all day. Anyway, Wonder Labyrinth, highly recommend it. Go out there and treat each other like y'all have some sense.